Welcome to Cars on Call. I'm automotive journalist Steve Schutz. I'm here with, let's say, a big shout out to Adams Hudson, who's back. Hey, man.
Glad to be back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome
great to
back,
have you.
Adams.
Yeah. Making my second appearance in this year. So I just want to be wanted. I don't
You're
want to be
wanted,
needed.
man.
I
You're
just
Well,
want to
you're
be
wanted.
yeah,
wanted.
you're also missed.
Oh, thank you. As are
Amen.
you guys.
As my
Amen.
parents let me know that you bring a certain je ne sais pas quoi to the show, that they enjoy it when you're on the show. So
It sounds
Yeah.
filthier when you say it in French, but okay.
it means you
Thank
have a
you.
little, yeah, a little, yeah.
Yeah, a little naughtiness.
Nah.
So,
There's nothing naughty about that.
all right, Stefan, we're the only car podcast that has a trauma surgeon who's done research on car crashes and has operated on car crash victims. So Stefan is here in the house.
I think I've missed a few, but I'm back. We're here.
Yeah,
Well, and you got your shirt on backwards too. I like that part.
Yeah, like I said, I can't. It's the 24 hours of Le Mans, the GT40 in Gulf colors, but I, I'm not going to pay for Zoom Pro so I can switch the video.
Oh, don't say that. You got a deal on the ones that were printed backwards. They
Yeah,
were
that's
half
right.
price. That's a good looking shirt, though. I'll give you that.
my parents, who when I was a kid were always like ridiculously trying to save money. My mom found a company where they would send, you could buy misfit or misprinted T-shirts, and it was like $5 for 10 of them. And I wish I still had the one that said Michigan. Was, it missed the I. It said Michigan. That's why it was so cheap. I feel like the kids in Africa that have all the teams that lost the Super Bowl, but they made the shirt that said they won, and they're
Yeah.
Right,
playing in Africa.
right.
Was
That's
that
what I
shirt
felt
made
like.
in Alabama at Russell Mills? Man, misspelled.
Yeah.
Or
So
the Bucky's billboard where they misspelled where it says "You had me at Hodwe." They got they got they got the W and the D backwards, and it was such a rage. They started printing T-shirts that said "You had me at Hodwe," and they were like super popular.
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Just a little mistake in the proofing department, but anyway.
Oh my gosh, that's great. We're going to talk. It's the 50th year of the BMW 3 Series, so we're going to talk 3 Series. Adams is going to talk about a really hot Toyota rumor, and we're going to give some love to the Audi RS3 at the end. But of course, we have our trauma surgeon safety segment as well. So it's going to be a really good lineup, and we're going to have a great time. It's going to be certainly fun for us. So we're going to start with the 3 Series, and it is 50 years old, which is amazing, kind of. And the reason it's kind of is that it was launched in 1975 in Europe only, and it didn't make it to the United States until 1978 model year. So it's kind of not, but it is. I mean, worldwide, it's been out 50 years, and honestly, it's one of my favorite cars of all time. I'm going to go through the history of the 3 Series, but I've always loved the 3, and I've owned two M3s. I still own one. So I'm a big fan. I'm going to go through the history pretty quickly, but this is no surprise to anyone who's a real enthusiast. The 3 Series in Europe was the successor to the famous 2002. And I was never a real fan of the 2002, to be honest. I know it's a great car, but I always loved the 3 Series. I love the initial 3
Bite your
Series.
tongue. The
I
2002.
know.
Set the stage
I know.
for us old guys.
Stefan actually mentioned David E. Davis's very famous review of the 2002, where he said, "Turn your hymnals to page 2002," and then went on to extol the virtues. So I know it's a great car. But 1977 as a 1978 model, the it's called the E21 generation. It was only the 320i coupe. That's all you could get. One of my roommates in medical school had a 320i, so I drove it. Not great to drive. Very tail happy and underpowered.
I looped the 320i in fraternity row in Birmingham Southern.
Tail happy.
So I graduated college in '83, and we had in the fraternity we had a bunch of rich doctor kids and from locally from Mount Brook and Vestavia, and two of them had the 320i. One had a silver one. One had a silver one. He crashed it, and immediately his dad got him a gold one. But I was borrowing his 320i coming down Fraternity Road. It was downhill. It was wet, and I just thought I'd go around the corner just a little bit fast, turning onto Fraternity Road. And man, that rear end just came unglued. I mean, I'd forgotten about that until you mentioned that rear end. But I mean, literally, it was like Porsche Turbo 911 snap oversteer. That thing
Mhm.
was gone that fast. And the other guy who crashed it, he pulled out into traffic, making a left-hand turn, and came out a little too hot. And same thing, that tail end came around and
There
Jerry
you go.
Kitchen. Yeah, there you go. It's two stories
Yeah.
of
Yep.
that.
Tail happy.
Trail happy.
They fixed that with the next generation. The 320i was only four cylinder, and then the E30, which looked a lot like the E20, like the original one, but they kind of cleaned up the design, but they definitely cleaned up the handling. That was 1984 to 1991, four cylinder and six cylinder. That was really where, during the 80s is when BMW became BMW. They grew and they grew and they grew. And it was really the foundation was in the not the 70s, but really the 80s. And then E36, 1992 to 1998. And again, this one they had actually convertible coupe sedan. They had a hatchback, which was kind of weird briefly. E46 was 1999 to 2006. And Stefan, if you want to go ahead and show the pictures, it's got all the generations. And then in 2008, we had the E9X, which is the only one where they like said it was X because the reason the E92 or E90 generation was the X. So there's the first. Nope, that's the wrong one, Stefan.
Wrong one. All
I
right.
think
Stop
so.
share.
That was my
Is
favorite. You want to have all the
it-
threes.
okay. Here, this is the one.
Was that
All
the
right.
second Gen 3 right there that he showed
No, that
earlier?
was the first.
There we
But
go. All right. Now I got it right.
so
There
there's
you go. Yeah.
if you go through the pictures, E21, 1978 to
Yep.
1983, it's the OG 3
To me,
Series.
I love that shape, size. I love the front end. The, I love that generation. I did not like this move here to the E30 with I like the overhang on
Yeah.
Yeah.
so for listeners, the nose, the top of the hood was higher almost than was more in front than the bumper. The hood, the
Yeah.
grill leans forward, whereas the next generation, they made it almost vertical upright grill and just made it round. And to me, it lost some of that BMW distinction that I grew up from the 2002s and everything.
Steph, I don't disagree one bit. I think that's where the 6 Series with that greatly protruding hood that came back, they called it, the shark because it
Shark. Oh yes.
had that overbite. But I like that first series a bit better. This one, I guess, is a little bit, nipped and tucked and trimmed and sort of sculpted in. But that first series, you guys are talking about the tail happiness. I do remember when the O2 got replaced by the 3 Series, they were everywhere. That was an incredible selling car. I don't think a lot of people pushed them as the performance sedans that they were lauded to be, which, that was kind of a new segment. Performance sedan? Why are you putting those words together? And that's what BMW really meant to me is that when they emerged, they were performance cars that just did a lot. You could do a family trip, you could stuff them full of luggage or people, and they still performed.
Yeah, the first gen, the E21, had more personality in every way. It had more personality to drive, as Stefan just described, and more personality to look at. And then it's like it grew up. It was, now it's an adult in the E30 version. It didn't have that snap oversteer. The design is kind of cleaner and more generic, less interesting. And then
Mhm.
that trend continued. If you look at the E36, now it looks more modern. It was a little lower, a little flatter, not quite as slab-sided, a little longer. And then E46, they cleaned that up and they made it really, really just a nicer design. That's the M3
This
version.
is the first redesign that I like of the.
I,
I go straight from the original to this, and all the others in between. To me, this I like. This
Same. Yep. Agreed.
That front end just looks a little bit aggressive. I just this is to me was the second iteration of the 3 Series that I fell in love with.
And the
Yeah,
Laguna
that's
Seca Blue doesn't hurt.
Laguna Seca Blue is right. That's a good eye, Adams. 1999 to 2006 and actually 2007. But that was, I agree, Stefan. Anyone who talks M3, and we're not really get into M3 too much today, but for everyone who really is a connoisseur of M3s, that's the best one. It's an inline six, which, all the M3s except for the original one in the 1980s were inline six. And of course, there was the famous V8 in the around 2010, 2008 to 2013. But when people say M3, this is really considered the best one. And it was not as crazy as the V8, but not as kind of stupid as the four-cylinder one. I'll just say very quickly, I didn't like it. I'm not going to say I hated it. I thought the original M3 from the 80s was dumb because I actually wrote this down somewhere. The price of, I don't see where I had it written down. The price of a 325 IS in like 1985, 1986, which was just about as fast as the M3. The price was like 28,000 or 25,000, and the price of an M3 was like 35,000.
Well, with the four-cylinder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
And those cars, they caught on so quickly in the collector ranks. They went from sort of forgotten, sort of dumb. Well, they weren't terribly dumb. They had the box flares. Remember, like the 944 had what they call box flares. So the M3, the early one, had the box flares sticking out, and the four-cylinder. I worked for a dealership for a brief period, probably just under 2 years. When I joined that dealership, they had that original M3, silver, red interior. And when I left that dealership, they still had that car in inventory. Nobody
Yeah.
wanted it. I mean, it was
yeah.
just like, what is this? Why is
It's
this so expensive?
50% more. It was, yeah, 28,000 for 325 IS, 35,000 and that's a lot of money. It's 50%, basically almost at least 40% more. It's crazy. That's too much money for really no real performance advantage.
They're worth crazy money now.
I know. So the E9X, so they say E9X because the E90 was the sedan, 91 was the wagon, E92 was the coupe, E93 was a convertible. And it was too confusing and they got rid of that. But I call it the E92 or the E90 generation. And for the M3, they had a V8, a naturally aspirated V8. I'm partial to this car because I actually own one, which I bought new in 2013. But is it better
I,
than the E46 generation that came before it? I'd say no. I
okay,
just am
we
partial
got to
to it
stop.
myself.
I got to interject right here.
Yeah.
Okay, I just think this is stupid. Okay, the 3
Let us
Series.
know what you really think.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, the 3 Series was always a two-door car,
Yeah.
and then now they make it 4 doors, and for a while it's a 3, but now the the M3 two-door coupe is actually called the M4, and the 4 door is called the M3. I'm sorry, that's just stupid. Okay,
Yeah.
I
I
guess that
completely agree.
it's just the stupidest thing. The 3 Series is always a two-door. The 4 Series, in between the 3 and the 5, however you want to do it, was a 4 Series. But this whole M4 now is a two-door, and the M3 is a 4 door. I'm sorry, that's just stupid. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
super confusing.
Oh,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
stupid.
But
It's stupid. I
it
left that
is
out.
stupid. But if you think about it over the years, it is kind of cool that the 3 Series has usually included a coupe, convertible, a wagon, and a sedan. We usually do not get the wagon. We almost always
Yeah.
didn't get the wagon, but we got the sedan, the convertible, and the coupe. So that's it shows the versatility
Yeah.
of the 3 Series. Should they have changed the name to the 4? I agree with you, Stefan. No, this is the F30 generation, 2014 to 2018, and then 2019 to now is the G. And
Oh,
we'll get back to that. So that's kind of the rundown of the cars. And I think it's great to give this car some love. It started in the 70s, and here we are 50 years later, basically, and it still is an enthusiast car. It's good to look at. It's good to drive. I will just end and then open it up. But the latest G version, which is called the G80 M3, I drove with a manual transmission. It is a twin turbo inline six, and the performance is unbelievable. The shifting is great. I drove it and said, "This is probably the best M3 I've ever driven." I still think that it was so good. And by the way, I owned the last generation, which is supposed to be the same thing. And boy, it's not. That one had a crappy connection between the engine and transmission. It was much better to look at than it was to drive. And then the new one, it's like they fixed everything I didn't like about it. I'm like, this car is absolutely gold. It's so great. And I thought that, and then not long after that, Doug DeMuro did a thing on it. And he goes, "It's one of the best M's ever. Forget about M3. Like any M car, this is absolutely great." If you guys haven't driven it, I know, but it's great.
Was the one that you drove before, was that a single clutch? Was that the SMG or was that a dual clutch car? The one that didn't have the connection between the engine and transmission?
6-speed manual transmission.
Oh, got you. Okay. And they didn't have that right. You would think that that would be the thing BMW always got right with the manual transmission.
Here's what I think. I think that they developed that car with no plans to make a manual. And then the dealers in the United States said, "Guys, you have to have a manual." Our dealer, I think in Europe they don't want one. The performance drivers prefer an automatic in Europe, so they weren't going to do it. And they're like, "Oh crap!" So they took the only 6-speed they had and they kind of stuck it in there. They beefed it up a little bit and they stuck it in there. I think it was a last minute addition. They didn't really fully develop it. Now it's fully developed.
Gotcha.
All right, so this car is worthy of love, and we know it's changing. It's going to be electric in 10 years. So this is kind of the swan song, but it had a pretty darn good run. And in order to give it a full cards on call send off, we all together thought, let's come up with our three favorite 3 Series. So, Stefan, let me start with you, since you
Oh,
have the
okay, we'll switch.
earliest, I guess the earliest spin in a 3 Series. Those are
So
mine.
to speak.
I wanted you to do yours.
I want to make sure I get the right one picked up. Yeah, here we
Those
go.
those are my 3 favorite.
These are
So
that's
when your
all right,
fraternity
well,
brother when your fraternity brother said, "Hey, you want to take my car for a spin?" You took him literally.
I took him literally. Here, all right, here we go. Here's the one I want to share. So this is a 1983 323i. I want more power so I can spin it more often.
Not
But
available in the United States.
That's
I
right.
know, but I can find it's 20 years out. It's more than 20 years out, so I could import one here if I wanted this. So if I was
That's
to
a good
import,
pick.
this is an English version, right side pick, but I love the 323i. I love the BBS wheels. And for me, with the shark, I guess it's like Adam said, the shark nose, the small little BMW roundel on the front and the front grille. To me, this is a trip down nostalgia the road. 140 horsepower, 2,600 pounds, and easy to spin. So this would be my old pick from that generation.
I like it.
All
The
right, let me give.
323, I back when there was something called the gray market. I don't know if you
Right.
guys remember when that was a thing, but I imported a half dozen of these because they were the car we couldn't get. And they were faster than the ones that we could get, and they were a little bit trimmer, a little bit lighter. And they drove great. I loved those cars.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too. Yeah, could go through all your 3, Stefan, but before you leave this one thing that they had that was really cool was they actually had 323i as a badge in the grill. And they didn't have that in the United States. It was only on the rear deck lid. So I always thought it was really cool because you knew what a 323 was coming at you because it had it on the
oh
grill. Remember
yeah,
that?
that's
Yeah,
cool. If
I
this
did
one you
not know
can
that
see,
detail.
you can see that on the
You can
grill
see
on
it.
this one. Yep.
Yeah, you can see it.
All right. And then, of course, this one is an easy pick. 2000 E46 M3. Like you said, this is the third generation major redesign. I love the little strakes on the front fender, the little cooling vents. I love the fender flares. I just love
Yep.
everything about this car. It's to me, this is going to be a timeless design. This shape still looks, I mean, this 25-year-old design, to me, it still looks fresh. It looks great. It doesn't look dated. And I've had two Lexuses with a straight six. absolutely love the straight six engine. It's the only engine besides the V12 that does not have to be balanced because it is 100% balanced because of the firing order and that doesn't need counterbalances and crank, all this kind of stuff. So this would be it for me. And also this engine would go to 7,900 RPMs. I mean, just scream. This is the perfection of German straight six. This is
Ah,
the end of the road. It just never got better than this, and they shifted to the eight and everything else turbocharged. So for me, as a lover of both, I love an American V8, but for me, absolutely, the first Jags with the straight six. I love the straight six motor, and for me, that's why I chose this car.
Adams, have you ever owned one of this generation M3?
I have. I had a what did they call it? A carbon black, which was really blue, and it had the baseball glove sort of tan interior. It was an '05, so it was after the whatever revisions they did in the middle of '03 or maybe '04. And it was it's everything we're saying. It was competent in every possible area. And I love the looks too, Steph. I think that car looks as fresh as something that just came out yesterday.
Oh, I love that car. Spectacular.
It's the sound of that car. It's
Hmm.
non-turbo. The sound is syrupy smooth. It's a beautiful, smooth, melodic sound. And it's interesting that the new versions, the last two M versions, including the one that I was just describing, it's an inline six, but it's twin turbo. The engine doesn't sound nearly as nice. It sounds harsh.
Your engine,
Little
I did
little
not, I don't know what engine your M3 had that you came to here, Steve, at one time. I mean, it sounded like a Toyota Tacoma with a coffee can on the muffler or something. It sounded awful. I mean, it was fun to drive, but if it's got an M to me, it's got to sound a little bit nasty, a little bit bop bop. It's just got to have a good sound to it. And that car did not have any good sound at all.
Nope, that E46 it was beautiful sound.
It really is. And Steve, correct me, is that the S52 motor? What motor is that? 3.2 motor. Is it a S52? I can't remember. S54.
54, but I don't.
54, okay.
Yeah, I
But
think
what a magical motor. 300 plus 333 horse, I guess, in that car. It has just,
333. Wow, good memory.
well, it's just such a fantastic number. And I think it's kind of funny that in the M Coupe or the Z3M, they knocked it down to maybe 315, I think. They kept that magic number for the real M3. And Steph, I'm with you on one other thing. If I don't know if you can pull that picture back up.
Yep.
But when you look at the
Love that.
front end, you were talking about the vents, you're talking about the flares, the wheels that just fit within millimeters of those wheel wells. There's one
Oh,
more little detail that I love on that front end, and it is that on the detail of the front, if you go to the headlights, you see how they pulled that body color line up in there just to miss where the projector beams would come out. To me, that car has always looked like it's squinting, like it's
yeah.
taking aim on something. And I just love that. They could have left that open, but whoever decided, no, let's pull that eyelid up from the bottom a little bit, that car just looks right. Everything about it.
Oh yeah. I see that
Yeah,
now. I bet
it's
that's
great.
where the pop-up washers come out too, looking at
Yeah,
this.
it looks like it. Yep. I did not remember that on mine. And I'll tell you one last thing on mine because I already picked this, so we're not going to double up on time. The rear quarter windows, you got the power windows, and of course your left, right go down. The rear quarter windows pop out.
Oh, I love
I
that,
didn't know
man.
that.
That's so
Oh,
sexy. Yep.
oh, that is
Yep.
electric, I assume, but
Yes, of
yeah,
course. And they
oh,
come out
that's
about a whole inch and a half, but it's just
yeah.
cool.
It's for the smokers in the back.
That's a nice little detail, Adams. I didn't know that.
Okay,
Hey,
and
what's your
then
last one, Stefan?
my last one is a
Yeah. The
is a
show just took
Toyota
a
Supra.
left.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Toyota and this rumor,
Are you
but
sure that's not a Conquest TSI
okay, all
from
right, now here it
Plymouth?
is. Just hold on now. You're going to understand the segue here. This is kind of where my brain thinks. All right, just give me a break here. This is a 1984 Celica Supra, 145 horsepower, straight six. Okay. This is another straight six engine car. I never owned one, but when these came out, I mean, it has got flares on the fenders. I loved this car when it came out. This
Me
was a
too.
game-changing design, and I really wanted these in a bad way. They were expensive, but to me, this was the Japanese version of the 3 Series coupe for me. The Celica Supra was the alternate, I'd rather would have had a BMW, but it's about the same time. But I loved these cars because they were just, they have it was a very aggressive stance for the design period in time. So that'll be the segue into Toyota later in the show. That's why I picked that one.
You're all about a theme, aren't you, Steph?
Yeah, keeping with the theme.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get who's next here.
Adams, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I chose the
All right.
Opel Diplomat strictly because it had an inline six-cylinder engine. No. On the, well, there you go. Boom. I had to as my number three pick, not saying it was necessarily last, but sort of like the car that I could certainly live with in the 3 Series as a daily is this one, and that's the E91. Some of this BMW nomenclature gets me, but the E91, which was '06 to 2011, that was the last six-cylinder wagon you could get over here. And Steve, I don't know if they even offer a six-cylinder wagon now, the current crop you can get in the US.
No, there's no wagon version. The last wagon version was the last, the F series, which was around 2014 to I guess 2018, 19.
And that's the two
And my
liter
wife
turbo.
has one, and we've talked about this. It's a wagon, which she likes, and it's not a big thing. She doesn't like driving big cars, and she will not part with it because, well, first of all, we never had a single problem with it. The car is amazing. I love driving it, and
The diesel, isn't it?
she won't get rid of it because it's a diesel. It's a four-cylinder diesel, goes 600 miles on a tank. So she's just like, no, I'm not getting rid of it. Literally every time I say, hey, look at that Lexus or look at that Mercedes or something, and she'll say, can you get it in a diesel? And I say,
Wow.
no. So
Well,
these wagons are great.
this particular one I like because we've just been singing the praises of the inline six, and BMW just made that motor what it is. I mean, they perfected the living heck out of it. And this particular one is a 328. Now you could get the 330, but that was a four-cylinder. But this is the 328 inline six. I think it's about 240 horse, so not a ton of power. And there were so many BMWs that they sold in Europe that we could not get here. So this was kind of like the best of the breed of what you could get in the US. And I just love it. It's compact, it's neat looking. I like this style. It's modern enough to be considered a daily. And Steph, I probably got a couple more pictures of this just showing different things. Yeah, there's a
There you
motor
go.
kind of stuffed in there pretty far back in the chassis. You can see the shock towers and it's living well back of that. And there's a decent amount of cargo space. Seats don't fold flat like a modern car would, but that was my number three pick. And then my number two, which has been mentioned, and I love it, is the E92 V8 M3. And I just think it's just fantastic. It's fantastic to look at. It's fantastic to think that BMW had enough whats to launch a V8 M3 and then get out of the V8 M3 all in one series. They never did it again. I mean, this is a one, well, excuse me, two stars crossing paths, the great V8 and the M3, boom, they crossed, never again. We will never see another car like this again, ever, I don't think. And it's the fantastic V8 that, of course, it's got wonderful power, wonderful noise, a whole lot of horsepower per pounds. And they
I
have a
don't
little
know. It
bit.
wasn't very fast though when I drove Steve-O's.
Did you spin it as you do most of the people's cars you borrow?
No, I may have taken the car to a speed it had never seen before.
Well, wasn't it about 400 horse or somewhere in that zone? What is it?
Yeah. 414, and Stefan took it to over 140 miles an hour.
Goodness gracious alive. All right. Well, I'm glad I still have both my co-hosts after that story.
What's your top one?
Well, that would be okay. Look at it from the back. Can you not
Yeah.
love this car? My gosh. I mean, and I think this is a collector piece written on it. You buy one now, you love on it, you fix the rod bearings, you do whatever you have to do, and that's not even that expensive. It sounds terrible, but it's not that expensive. And just live with the car. It's fantastic. I cannot over express that. But my number one has to be the one that we've already said, so we won't dwell on it terribly, is the E46. And it's just that's a rotten picture, but it's a great color. And it's just, it's everything the M3 ever hoped to be. And there is not one quarter. I don't know how they got the V8 in that engine compartment, but of course they got not 1 inch of room in that one, and it's engineered to the nth degree. And that's all I can say about it. The E46 is kind of the one. It's the poster child of the M3s.
Yeah,
Looking at that picture, I didn't realize that motor is tilted.
Indeed, it is. Yeah.
yeah,
If you see the dual overhead camshafts,
Yeah.
the cover, I had no idea that that motor was tilted. That's really
I don't
cool.
I don't think I really paid any attention to that stuff, but yeah, you're right. The intake's level, but the
Yes,
cams are over.
the
Yeah.
cams are over.
I
Uh-huh.
think they tilt all of them. I mean, that's
Okay.
to me
You got a
classic
lower hood.
BMW, just so it fits.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay. Cool.
That's engineering right there.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you my three, then we'll move on,
All right.
and I'll go through mine quickly because we've touched base on all these already. But
I got it.
my first one is the Alpina version of the
Mm.
the
Oh yeah.
initial 3 Series, and the 20, all Alpina vehicles have 20 spoke wheels. This one just looked exactly right, and they always had an air dam. So the air dam on this, I think it takes what Stefan talked about, which is that kind of aggressive looking grill, and then it kind of added and multiplied to have that air dam, and then the wheels, and it was lowered. And I always like that look, so that's my favorite one. Any kind of Alpina.
Nice pick. Oh yeah.
Oh,
That
Absolutely.
really is. Yeah.
OG,
That's a
yeah,
great pick.
OG. And then the next one was that's actually a picture of my
Your
car
car.
taken
Yeah.
at Ketchum. And
Fabulous.
the only thing I'll say really quickly is my complaints are the interior, the quality of the materials on the inside is not good. It was better the generation before, and it was better the generation after. So the plastics and everything are a little bit cheap, and I don't like that. And I also don't like that you really, to access the power, you've got to go up to, this actually red line's over
Yeah.
8,000. It's like
Yeah.
8,500, and you got to really hit this thing. And my when people ask me about it, I said, well, it's a great car. I love driving it, which I do, but it has the efficiency and utility of a Civic and the fuel economy of a Suburban. It's, it's like, in Car Magazine, I'll just say very quickly, Car Magazine, when they reviewed it, they're in the good, bad, ugly, the negative, they said prodigious thirst. So this car really, really sucks
Like
gas.
how many miles per gallon are you talking?
Probably 12.
Ooh,
Oh,
ooh, that's
you
like my
mean like with
Cobra was like 12. I
you mean like
mean,
with normal drive? Like I'm just talking about getting around, not trying to see what it'll
wow.
do.
Adams,
Well,
I don't know because I've never driven it like that.
yeah. Well, there you go.
There you go.
And then the last one, and we'll wrap this up, is the newest M3. And I'll say very quickly, this is it. This is the last of the breed. You can get a manual transmission. It's super fast. It's a very potent car that's super fun to drive. This is going to be gone in probably 5 years. There's just manual, sports sedan. There's not going to be any more. This is it.
This is like the Bucky's BMW. Look at that front grille, man. It's got two buck teeth on
It's
there,
the
and
Bucky's BMW. It
I
is.
mean, look at.
It
I just
is.
cannot deal with that front. I can deal with the entire car except for the two gigantic buck teeth in the front of that thing.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
one's, you're fortunate, this one's broken up with the German
right.
license plate. If you took
Yeah.
that license plate off of there, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. Oh, no, I mean,
Once
I
once
just
some
can't deal with that.
once someone mentioned beaver teeth, I can't
Beaver
unsee
teeth,
that
yeah.
because it does
Yeah.
look like beaver teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty, well, that's it. We love the 3 Series, and that was so cool. And let's move on to trauma surgeon safety.
All right, so we're going to do kind of like more of a public service announcement once again this time. And so Steve-O sent me a picture of a picture. He had a car spy, an old Volkswagen Beetle, and you brought up the idea of, you'd be scared to death to get hit in that vehicle. So kind of what I want to make this conversation is think about the car that you currently do your daily driving in. And, most all of your collisions and injuries are going to occur within 5 miles of your home. So that's your daily driver, the car that you drive all the time. So the question becomes, when should I trade up my car? How old is old? I'm not talking about trading up your spouse here. Okay, I'm talking about your car. All right. So the idea of trading up is what I talk about improving the odds. So every time you get behind a wheel, you want to think about how can I improve the odds that number one, I'm not in a wreck. Number two, if I am in a wreck, that I have the least number of injuries and hopefully not any fatalities for myself or the occupants in my vehicle. Now, granted, we love vintage cars, old cars. You tend to drive those a little differently. You're not driving them in traffic every day. So your exposure is a lot lower in terms of miles. So I'm really talking about your daily driver. So, when your vehicle is so old that you're risk of greater injury or even worse dying, it's like going to a knife fight. I mean, sorry, a gunfight with a knife. Because all the other vehicles around us on our roadway are getting heavier and bigger every year. So if you're in an older car, automatically you're in a lighter vehicle. You're in a smaller vehicle, which means you are already at a disadvantage versus somebody else in a multi-car collision. The other thing we've taught, I don't want to go into detail on ADAS, but all the automated driver assistance systems that are available. The older your car, the less likely it has it. Okay, because most vehicle manufacturers don't put it in until it's mandated or on their higher trim vehicles. All right, let's think about what about fatality risk versus age? Well, we know it's kind of a linear thing. The older your car is, the more likely that you're going to have injuries and fatalities. But where does it really get to a point where it's a statistical thing? Well, the one thing they can say is if you look at over 5 years, the cars in the last 3 years have the lowest proportion of fatalities of all occupants. All right. A 3-year-old or newer car has got the lowest compared to all age groups before it. Now, if you go way back to like an 18-year-old car, you're 71% more likely to die than somebody in a 3-year-old or newer car. Yeah. 18-year-old
Interesting.
car, 71%. All right. Now,
Wow.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's sobering. So if those two cars hit head on, the 18-year-old car and the 3-year-old car, you're 71% more likely to have the fatality in the
fatalities in the old 18-year-old car.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another thing about talking about, teenagers, and a lot of times teenagers get the hand-me-down cars. So this came out in JAMA and compared to vehicles 5 years old or newer. So for teenagers driving cars 6 to 15 years old versus 5 years or newer, 20% greater risk of fatality in a crash.
Wow.
20%. So if you give your kid a car that is 6 to 15 years old to drive to school, drive its siblings to school, drive its friends to school, go out on a Friday night, Saturday night, you've increased the risk of possible fatality by 20% versus if you'd had them in your new car. And then it goes up to 31% if they're driving grandma and grandpa's car that they got.
But Steph, do we also compound that with the number that you've shared here before, which is their likelihood of being in a crash is
Oh,
way
yes.
higher still. So now
So
you're
this is comparing teenagers to teenagers, right? So this is teenagers to teenagers. This is not teenagers to everybody else because you're right, absolutely right. Teenagers have a higher fatality rate than us. Now let's talk about older drivers and older vehicles. Okay, mom and dad, listen up. Okay, here we go. So drivers age 70 plus. I'm 6 years away from that, but if you
you may need
we
to
know.
speak up a little bit if you don't mind. No.
But the bottom line is, the older you get, the less likely you are to take insult. The older you get hurt easier, you take longer to recover. So drivers age 70 plus are less likely to survive a crash than a younger driver. We know that. Well, think about older drivers typically are driving their retirement car. They retired, they bought themselves a new car, and they'll drive it for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. They don't want to make a new purchase. They don't want to go into the dealer. They don't want to learn something new in the car. And as I've get told a story about my mother-in-law, when I bought her new car, she hated it because it did nothing but scream at her every time she drove it. And those are all the bells and whistles of the safety systems telling her that she was doing something she shouldn't. And The most common crash for an older driver is a multi-vehicle crash in an intersection. Okay, so this is classic. The older driver, as we know, and I know this, your night vision gets worse, your peripheral vision gets worse, even and your central vision get worse. They have cataracts. So not only that, their judgment changes with time. So they think they've got time to pull out when they don't have time. That's a judgment issue. Teenagers have that same issue. And then the older driver doesn't see the other vehicles also. So they tend to miss lights, go through intersections, think they can get through, didn't see the other car coming. So they're more likely to be involved in these T-bone collisions. And the last place you want to be hit in a car is the side. Okay, you think about it. You've got the door between you and the other car. That's it. And you've got an airbag. And that's not how you want to crash. But they figured that if you could reduce fatalities by anywhere 3 to 5% or more just by changing vehicles. So bottom line, if you financially can afford it, don't put your kid in an old car, put them in a newer car. And if you're an older driver, and you need to be in a newer vehicle, or you need to limit where you go. And I know my parents now, they drive to church, the grocery store, my brothers, and on occasion her sisters. That's it. So they don't road trip anymore. They don't drive in the town. And I think that's very key for my mother-in-law. It's still driving at the age of 100, same thing. Those are the only places she goes. So I think as the older driver, limiting their access, and I think the one key thing for this also, I mentioned older drivers and teenagers is they have any intersection that has to be a stop sign or four-way stop. They can't making a left-hand turn and a stop sign on the busy two-lane is not that's not a three-way stop. Is just is a bad option in that category. So
Yeah, I was really shocked, Stefan, when I sent you the picture of the Volkswagen Beetle because I just forgotten how small it is and how
yeah,
vulnerable you are.
yeah.
There's nothing around you. You're just your shoulder's right up against the door, and if you get hit in the side, you're in big trouble. By the way, you get hit in the front, you're in big trouble because there's no engine to protect you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. Here's the
And they
picture you
even
sent
worsened
me.
that when you put, and look how tiny it is. It's hard to tell, but that's a
Vol-
small SUV next to it, and it just towers over it.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
it's
we're
not,
looking at a
it's like
picture of
a,
old VW Beetle.
yeah, it's like a, similar to the size of like a RAV4, maybe it's like a little Chevy SUV. I remember it, and it may be the Chevy Trailblazer, but it's just not a big thing, and it's got way more protection than a Beetle. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. Well, thank
And
you,
it even
Stefan.
gets worse if you put them in a microbus because I drove a microbus about 10 years ago. I was looking at it for a friend, and I hopped on up in the seat, and there's the windshield, and there's no front. Your face is the airbag. There is no vehicle in front of you. And
Yeah.
that's it. And just you look at the small cars, you consider the side intrusion beams and the bumper crash standards, which is basically almost non-existent then.
Well, I thought of Virginia Slims. You've come a long way, baby, because we've really made a lot of progress. And to see it in a car and just go, wow, that's what it was like.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. We're very blessed to have safer vehicles. So we're going to talk about an unsafe vehicle, I guess. Adams, you heard a rumor, so I want to hear about this because this really struck me.
I'm the unsafety editor here. And we all love power. We all talked about the 3 series, and most of us sort of gravitated to the more powerful versions of those. And here we are with the Toyota that we none of us really love, and actually does have the sort of the BMW genealogy under the hood with this the GR Toyota Supra that has the BMW motor. They have now announced Tom Walkinshaw Racing and or Tom Walkinshaw Andretti Union has announced that they're going to have 6 of these cars in the supercar series in Australia with the Lexus incredible 5-liter V8 stuffed up front. And this is a series, and it'll be fantastic to watch it race because it's Camaros and Mustangs, and I'm not sure what else races in that series, but that's kind of the predominant competition. And part of the thought is, and the whole thing that got this conversation going, and a lot of the people online are saying, wow, if it does really well, or if there's enough fan support, or if they do really great in the series, would they ever produce this for the showroom? And that's where the rumors start. And obviously, they have room up front to do it. I mean, they're like if you're Toyota, no price range is really going to hold you back from building a vehicle. But they're a for-profit company, so they have to look and say, well, is there three things? Is there market viability for it? In other words, are there enough people to buy the thing to even make it worth this experiment? That's one thing to look at. Secondly, on the engineering side, is there enough room, not just in the engine compartment, but you have to beef up the cooling, you have to beef up the suspension, you probably have to change the braking, you probably have to do like Steve was talking about the transmission engine interface. Are they going to have to change the transmission? In other words, there's these associated costs. Everybody talks about LS swaps. Every time you're on the line, somebody's talking about LS swap. It doesn't stop with just swapping the motor. So there's a lot that'll go into it. And the third thing is, would it advance the brand or hurt the brand? And that's what we can talk about here. I personally feel it would help the brand because I don't think the BMW, even though we all sort of bow to the BMW lords who make great motors, the marriage of Toyota BMW was what was sort of flawed. And so that's the car. And there may be a couple more pictures of it, Steph. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And they're kind of computery rendering. Well, that's the real car, but the computer renderings, and it's just this crazy looking, wide, lovely, fantastic V8 engined car. So you can't dislike that.
Well, here's the interesting thing to me is that our generation, and I would say, yeah, so older dudes like us who love European cars and American cars, there is such a lore for the American V8. And the world loves the American V8. I mean, the English have been throwing V8s in all of their cars. We have Cobras here. The question for me would become, I know this car means nothing to me. I don't like this car. But now if it's got a V8 in it, I'm gonna have a second look at this car, okay? It all of a sudden now has cool, it's cool to me. And the question would be, what about this next generation of automotive enthusiasts who are all about JDM, who want the Supras and the Skylines? What would they think about this car with a V8? Or would they say, no, no, I want the straight six because I can boost turbo it to 1,000 horsepower. I don't want the V8.
That's a good question because that's the market. Steve, what
Right.
are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Stefan. I think that they like, on the one hand, they like the BMW because you can really mod that and really. One of my partners got a 4 Series of 440i because he wanted to mod it, and he did, and he's got over 700 horsepower now.
Wow.
So you can definitely mod it. I would take issue with the description of the Toyota BMW being a marriage. I think it's an affair. I think that Toyota has their own engine department, and that engine department makes great engines, including this 5-liter V8, which is a great naturally aspirated V8. And I think a lot of customers and a lot of enthusiasts and probably a lot of employees feel like it's an affair. They went to BMW, they cheated. They cheated on their own engineers, and they went to BMW and bought that. And I think a lot of people, it bothers them. It should be a Toyota engine in there. I think it's kind of righting a wrong to put that V8 into that Supra. That's my opinion.
I like you say it like that, righting a wrong, because it's true. Yeah, it was not necessarily a marriage. I think you're right. It was an affair and just a little bit ill-founded because you're right.
Midlife crisis trade up.
But BMW has their own character. Their motors have their character. They have their own personality and thumbprint. Same exact thing can be said for Toyota. So for them to say, hey, you've got a better idea, or let's get an idea together and let's sort of commingle those ideas, it does not make it a better sum of the parts. It really, I think, disaffected and negatively the branding. And I think a lot of Supra fans were super disappointed because Supra is almost a brand within a brand. And to see somebody else's motor under the hood, it just didn't work. So I'm with you, Steve. I think it'll right or wrong if they can do it, if they can put the V8 on it. And they can. It's just whether or not it has a grain of
Yeah.
marketability behind it.
I
I
wish
don't think,
we, yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's much marketability. I don't think a lot of people would buy it. I just think they should do it anyway. But Stefan, what do you think?
I think as a way to to get this market back, this market share that this car lost, I think in this Supra. I mean, I don't know how many they sold. I rarely ever see this car.
I
And
rarely see them.
I mean, I think how much effort would it take? And I think it would be, even if it lost a little bit of money, I still think it'd be one of those things that would bring people in the showroom. It would
Yeah,
get people talking, and you get the next one ready for development for release. Okay. You create hype for the next one. You screwed this one up. Okay. Let's make it, let's do some hype here. Drop a V8 in it. We'll extend it another year or 2 years with the V8 as the high model, a wide body V8 like Dodge did with everything they ever made. Throw a big V8 in it, make a wide body, and people went crazy for everything Dodge did. So for me, absolutely, you do this to give you more time to get it right when you come back up with another car.
I agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree.
I
So
think we got a 3 for 3 here, and
three
you know
for
we're not
three.
running Toyota, but honestly, Steph, that also makes a good point because you know we've talked about like just the walk through the park of all the 3 Series BMWs, you know, the high points, low points. What do they do right? What do they do wrong? It's sad to say that this particular series is kind of like something they did wrong. If they
Yes,
left the last one as the best one with the V8 and that's where it left, people wouldn't say that's what they did wrong.
right. I
Yeah,
think it would be a perfect way for them to segue to the next market segment.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you know, when you talk about the next one, they could actually make the next one that has a twin version that's a Lexus, so it's more luxurious. Looks like a Lexus, has that Lexus V8. I think that'd be great.
Right.
And suddenly you've just answered the marketability side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
increased your market.
Yeah. They just absorbed all the engineering costs, let Lexus pay for it.
All right, finally, I'm going to lament that the Audi announced that the RS3 is going away. They said probably 2026, and it's going to be gone. The RS3 is such a amazing, amazing car, and basically, this is the edge of golf. The platform is a golf platform, and yet it has a five-cylinder engine, turbocharged, incredible performance and four-wheel drive. It's just this nasty little thing. And the five-cylinder has a very distinctive sound, which of course we all remember from those rallying Audis from the 80s, which were all five-cylinder engines. I can't talk about this without mentioning my hero, Ferdinand Piëch.
There we
He,
go. There we go.
He'll
he
find his way
ran
into the conversation.
he ran Porsche racing until all the family was kicked out of any job at Porsche because mostly because of him. And he almost bankrupted the company with the 917. So he had his own consultancy. And Mercedes came to them and said, "Hey, make us an engine." He made a five-cylinder diesel engine, which they sold for years. Remember the 240D? That was a five-cylinder engine.
Absolutely.
So that was a Ferdinand Piëch design.
Did not
And then
know
he
that.
went to Audi and brought the five-cylinder with him. And this is the last of the Piëch five-cylinder engines. It'll never be made again. Five-cylinder engines, incredibly rare. There were a couple others over the years. I don't know if you remember either one of you what other manufacturers had five-cylinder engines, but there were some. But the Audi was the one that was famous, and this is the end
Right.
of an era. And then before we talk about that, I'll show you the next picture later. But you guys love this, hate it?
You
Am I
know,
the only one that's going to be sad?
No, I'm totally with you. I love the RS series from Audi, and I think the five-cylinder engine is just it's a cool engine to me. It's an inline, but it's odd firing, requires a lot of balancing to get it to go right. But they figured it out. But I always love the idea of Audi's RSs because they are edgy, they're a little bit nasty, they're outrageous, and they're all-wheel drive, and they are point and shoot cars, man. You point that car where you want, and it just eats the pavement. Now they're the king of understeer, but I mean in terms of how we drive on a day-to-day basis. They're torque monsters, point and shoot, and that's really what we drive. We don't go around corners at 10 tenths, 8 tenths. Now we'll leave a traffic light or a stop sign flooring the car, but I'm not going to throw it in a corner at eight, what I think would be 8 or 10 tenths, because I'll lose it. But this car allows you to have fun point and shooting from every traffic light, every stop sign, or on the interstate. And you know what? Oh, if it starts to rain, a little bit of sleet, don't worry about it. You got all-wheel drive. So I
You
love
know,
these cars. I love them.
I do too. I love the whole RS series. I think Audi
Yes.
brought to us something that we didn't even know Audi was capable of
We didn't
doing.
know
And
we needed it. A station, an RS station wagon. Yeah.
one of my favorite cars right now, if I was just like blank check available to go get a new car, that would be what it would be, the
Yeah.
RS6 Avant. But this car is just like you said, it's a super performance sedan, not just a performance sedan, but it just does everything very well to an nth degree. You know, as far as the five-cylinder, Steve, the only other one I can think of is Volvo. There probably were others, but
That's right.
when you hear about the V10s, everybody says, well, that's two inline fives together. It's like, well, why would anybody do that? And of course, Audi made the V10s for Lamborghini and the 5.2 and the R8. So they know the heck out of how to make a five-cylinder work. Styling wise, Audi kind of introduced that gaping mouth grille, and it was hard to get used to. This one is now gone to such a degree, it's like chainmail to me. I look at that and it looks like, the armor that was used back in the Renaissance. But um, it's 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 a handsome, muscular, crazy kind of car. And I keep saying this type thing. We're never going to see this again. Like I said about the V8 M3, we probably won't see this type of thing again. You know, when they electrify it fully, there'll be no need for all the cooling intakes and vents and such as that. The flared fenders, I mean, that a performance sort of look that we've fallen in love with that'll fall out of favor? The quad tailpipes. There's so much about that car
Yeah.
that just screams muscularity in a small package. I love it. I'm glad
Uh,
they did it. I
I'm gonna
love it.
bring this up. I want to say one other thing about these RS series that nobody does fender flares like Audi. Okay.
Yeah.
They absolutely know how to take a regular sedan, a wagon, and put flares on it that at first glance you don't catch. You kind of see an anomaly in the vehicle, but then all of a sudden you're like, look at those flares, man. Look at those hips. And I think they do a wide, a flared wide body better than anybody else has ever done. I think I love
Fair
the
point.
I love the fenders on the Audis.
Well, we know that Porsche is retrenching in a major way, going back to internal combustion engines. And Stefan, you and I talked about this. What can they do? And if they're going to, and of course they are, Volkswagen just took a charge of $6 billion
Yeah.
this year to make Porsche internal combustion engine again. And they're starting with this. They're making a big SUV that's supposed to compete with the GLS Mercedes and the X7 BMW. And they're going back to they're saying, all right, it was supposed to be all electric. Now it's not. So in the meantime, why not do something that they can do pretty quickly, which is, all right, let the RS3 go, but make a Porsche version, right? So if you scroll down, I had ChatGPT make a Porsche version of the RS3.
Get out.
Wouldn't this would sell?
And you painted it in our favorite color. So yes, it would. I'll take one.
Yeah, we talked about this and kind of backing up on that for listeners. Porsches, I mean, the base 911 starts at 137. We had fun together. We like to spec out new Porsches on the specometer. And my turbo came out at $237,000. Okay. And
No,
then
300.
I'm sorry, three hundred twenty-seven
Yeah.
thousand dollars, and like Jeff Bank, who's been a former host on this show as well, he said, "I think I'd take the GT3 Touring and the Macan instead of the Turbo S." Though
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I love the Turbo S, but that's a lottery car. But they need entry. They need to get something back in the showroom that's got a gas engine in it that starts at a price point well below $137,000. It is either a two-door or a four-door car, either one. And I think this one needs a little bit of work on the rear end, but I think that I like that. To me, I immediately see Porsche, and you can
Hmm.
fix the back end of this, and I think have a really great looking sedan. And they sell a shit ton of these.
Amen.
A
You know, they
shit
could
ton.
they could even sport back this like
Yeah.
the RS5.
Yes.
Yes. Perfect.
And
There you go. Yes.
then they've sort of got the silhouette that looks Porsche-like. The front end's fantastic, Steve, really. And
Yeah.
the chassis platform is already there.
It's there.
It's just lying around waiting for this outfit to meet it. So Porsche is in a
Right.
little bit of a hurt, which is hard to believe that we would never have been saying that 5 years ago, but they're in a little bit of a hurt. And I think VW's finally recognized it and they need another salvation. They've had a few over the years.
I'm just gonna say this, this is what the number of guys out there that want a Porsche 911 like me, but my wife thinks if I get a Porsche, I'm gonna be trading her up as well. Once again, talking about trading up. You could come home to your wife who does not want you to have a 911 because she thinks you're gonna have a midlife crisis, trading her up. But you come home with this, oh, you got a car. It just has a Porsche badge. You didn't get a 911. Okay. So you could still I think you could fulfill your Porsche fantasy with this and your wife would not be totally pissed at you.
Yeah. And Adams, you and I are in the same category since we currently own a 911, but
Yeah.
we're still with our first wife. And I've owned mine for just over 4 years, and my wife is now reassured.
Yeah.
It took 4 years. Yeah.
Did you have
She
to
was
sign
pretty
anything?
she was pretty reassured even in the first year, but now she's very reassured.
Okay,
You
yeah,
know,
but
I got
how many years did it take you to finally get permission to get the 911? Case
Uh,
in point.
10 years.
10 years. Okay, there we go. So, all you guys have been waiting 10 years. You wouldn't have to wait 10 years to have a Porsche in your garage if they came out with something like this.
Yeah.
I was driving a 246 Dino when we were dating, and they were not worth what they're worth now. Let me just make that super clear. It was about a $25,000 car. So the 911 was a bit of a trade down. But I tell you, my wife is not a car fan. I know we're sort of diverging. We're giving marital advice now, people. We took this car out 2 different times this weekend to go to dinner, and she loves it. This is like her favorite car I've ever owned. Has no qualms about it whatsoever. So the
Well,
911 saved my marriage. I'll just say that.
Hey, there we go.
we were at a Porsche dealer in Scottsdale, and they had one exactly like yours, that stone gray, and then it had the houndstooth interior, and my wife loved it. She said, "Wow, that is really cool."
And it
The
had the
interior.
50 V8.
Steph, you would appreciate this, and I know we're running out of time, but I had a couple of guys come over here do a little service. Had the garage door up. I was working on the Cayenne, and he poked his head in, and he goes, "Wow, that's another Porsche." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "What's it doing with the 5.0 in it?"
I saw your badge. Honestly, yeah, it
That was
says
his
5.0.
first question. And I said,
I
"Well,
love
there's
it.
a little story with that," but no, it was fun. I thought of you instantly.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
That's great. All right. Well, thanks, guys. We're going to wrap it up. That was fun. And Stefan, close us out.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening and watching on YouTube if that's your medium. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell button, and that way when we have a new episode out, you'll get notified. It'll pop up on your list of things to listen to or watch. All right, guys. We'll check with you later.
And happy 5.0 to the BMW 3 Series.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.